When I heard Philadelphia, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But then when I sat down, I was like, damn.
Shaquille O'Neal completely went off on LeBron James, and his take hit much different than anything else we heard about this whole saga. This was not just some casual take thrown out between commercial breaks. Shaq came fully loaded with a very specific, deliberate message. His words were aimed directly at specific critics, and he did not hold back. LeBron's decision had already set the league on fire before Shaq spoke. But the exact moment he stepped into the debate, the whole conversation flipped. Here's what he said and what it means for LeBron. We are tracking what this means for Philadelphia, and the critic Shaq put in his crosshairs. Let us break down how this shakes out. To really understand Shaq's massive reaction, you first have to break down what LeBron actually did on the market and why it landed so hard. LeBron James, navigating the final chapters of one of the most legendary runs in professional basketball history, made a massive career pivot. He chose to sign a 2-year contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, bypassing rebuilding franchises entirely for an immediate contender. He avoided waiting for potential down the road, choosing a loaded roster that, the moment his name was added, became an instant threat. It became one of the most versatile, high-powered collections of talent assembled in the Eastern Conference in quite a few years. This was absolutely not a quiet transaction that passed through the league without notice. This stands as one of the most significant free agency moments the NBA has witnessed in recent memory. It was the exact kind of high-stakes signing that forces opposing front offices to immediately tear up their game plans and start over. They had to rethink matchups. Philadelphia, a franchise chasing real championship relevance for years, suddenly found their answer. They suddenly landed right at the center of basketball universe. And for a league that heavily feeds on high-stakes drama, on heavy storylines and the kind of tactical tension that keeps fans locked in from October all the way through June, this move changes the defensive landscape and temperature of the Eastern Conference, but before a single game is even played. The roster LeBron stepped into was already quite formidable. Joel Embiid, a dominant 2-time scoring champion, anchored the interior. As a former league MVP and the most dominant post threat when healthy, he commanded double teams and warped opposing defensive rotations. Tyrese Maxey, an elite downhill guard, had been steadily evolving into a perimeter force who thrives off catch-and-shoot opportunities. His speed forces defenders to drop deep, opening up driving lanes. And with Jaylen Brown adding elite wing depth to the equation, Philadelphia suddenly possessed 3-level scoring threats at multiple spots. Yet, they still lacked a primary elite high post connector. They needed a playmaker with elite spatial awareness and serious gravity to pull defenders away from Embiid in the paint. Under the brightest lights, LeBron James is precisely that guy. His ability to read weak side help and manipulate defensive rotations is elite. When defenses collapse on his drives, he executes skip passes to the corner. Those cerebral playmaking skills do not diminish with age. If anything, his court mapping only sharpens. From a pure half-court execution standpoint, this offensive fit makes perfect sense. LeBron gets elite floor spacing to run spread, pick, and roll, while Philadelphia gets the playmaker to push them to a championship level. On paper, the spacing and gravity math is simple. But when has anything involving LeBron been allowed to stay simple? The reaction across the media was immediate and loud. For one faction of the basketball public, the signing commanded deep respect. Their argument is incredibly straightforward. LeBron James is a master competitor whose entire career revolves around one ultimate goal. He has a singular obsession with winning. Finding a roster that optimizes his playmaking and off-ball gravity is not a flaw. It is exactly what we expect from a player who has prioritized championship basketball above all else for over 2 decades. If a chance opens up to play with a great role threat like Embiid, you take it. That is not weakness. That is discipline. It is the exact competitive drive that separates the good players from the all-time greats. But the opposing side was much louder at first. The heavy criticism came incredibly fast, firing from every single direction. A highly predictable wave of pushback began circulating almost immediately after the contract became official. People called it ring-chasing and legacy padding, claiming he needs a loaded roster because his individual gravity can no longer carry a team. Critics hated the idea of LeBron at this age, just slotting into an established system rather than carrying a weak offense. They argued his legacy would always have an asterisk because he keeps joining ready-made offenses with established scoring options. They openly questioned if winning a championship with this level of perimeter and post help would elevate his historic status. It is the same old debate that follows LeBron everywhere, now amplified by a roster move that completely alters Eastern Conference matchups. This talk would have dominated sports television for weeks if Shaquille O'Neal had not stepped in to completely reframe the discussion. Shaq laid out his strong stance on the Stephen A. Smith Show and other major sports media outlets, showing zero interest in holding back. He was not trying to soften his take or play nice with anyone. He came in with a highly specific, tactical perspective. Shaq delivered this point without apology. The core tactical argument is that elite offensive anchors must exploit spacing to hunt championships. That means forcing hard defensive rotations and commanding heavy help side coverage for as long as their physical tools allow. In Shaq's view, that is mandatory. It is a tactical obligation. The notion that LeBron should stop utilizing his downhill gravity to chase championships is absurd. That there is a point in a career where continuing to collapse defense and compete for titles becomes somehow unseemly or tactically problematic for franchises. Shaq dismissed that entire premise. Elite offensive engines do not just stop caring about gravity, spacing, or ultimate victory on court. If anything, the tactical urgency intensifies as the championship window closes. Every serious competitor understands that. Those who lack that tactical drive end up watching from the sidelines, wondering how different offensive schemes or better court spacing might have saved their legacies. Shaq never wanted that, and he sees in LeBron a peer operating with that exact same playmaking mindset. The historical debate is where Shaq's analytical breakdown got incredibly precise. He argues that LeBron James does not need another trophy to cement his status as the ultimate system-defining floor general. That case is closed. His career accomplishments and statistical metrics speak volumes. His sustained playmaking gravity and defensive manipulation across 2 decades at the highest competitive level of the sport have already cemented a legacy that requires zero external validation. Shaq views this ongoing pursuit as extra credit. LeBron has met every team's standard to rank among the premier floor generals in league history. Adding another ring does not change that baseline tactical evaluation. Instead, it simply adds another dynamic layer of evidence to a long-standing debate about his proven winning longevity. That LeBron James has dominated team defensive schemes for years. This strategic framing completely removes any desperation narrative. This is not a star player struggling to maintain his court threat or trying to salvage an offensive system that is steadily slipping away. Rather, this is a veteran star who has already built a monument of tactical achievements, simply choosing to place one more stone on the very top. Those are distinct basketball realities, and Shaq was not about to let talking heads blur that crucial tactical separation. The most direct aspect of Shaq's analysis, which immediately generated massive feedback across mainstream sports media networks, was the blunt shot aimed directly at the media. Shaq noted that the loudest voices criticizing LeBron's court choices are usually critics who have never had to execute a championship game plan under heavy defensive pressure themselves. That observation was highly calculated. Shaq's core point was that truly understanding what it takes to win at this level, to break down intense postseason defensive schemes, execute precise game rotation, and survive the exhausting physical grind across 82 games and deep into the finals, is a concept that outside media observers simply cannot fully grasp. People who have never managed high-stakes team chemistry on a championship run, or experienced the intense physical pressure of executing final possession offensive sets during a deciding playoff game, simply do not know what actual championship execution costs. Those analysts, Shaq argued, are not qualified to weigh in on how elite players should value their championship aspirations. This was a sharp, direct challenge to the overall byline credibility of those loud critics. And that argument landed hard because Shaq is one of the few prominent voices in basketball media who can defend his point with 4 championship rings backing him up. What gives Shaq's professional perspective additional weight in this ongoing debate is that his evaluation of LeBron is not built on far-off observations. He knows his habits. He shared the court with him. During the 2009 to 2010 Cleveland Cavaliers season, Shaq was LeBron's veteran teammate, giving him a front-row look at how the star approaches his daily physical and mental preparation, not just on high-stakes game nights, but every single day during walkthroughs, heavy training room recovery, and early morning weightlifting sessions. He saw how LeBron studied opposing defensive coverages, analyzing spacing and wide helpers instead of just going through the standard motions. Shaq witnessed an athlete totally consumed by refining his daily game and securing victories. That detail is critical to this conversation. Because media members debating LeBron's competitive drives and offensive role are almost exclusively analyzing the situation from the outside. They base their takes on basic box scores, short post-game press conferences, and whatever narratives they can stitch together from broadcast clips. Shaq possessed a completely different vantage point. He saw how LeBron worked when there was no crowd watching his drills, when no national television cameras were rolling, and the only internal force driving those demanding daily court workouts was his own highly rigorous personal standard. What Shaq observed during that specific year in Cleveland was an athlete operating with an exceptional level of professional discipline that left a lasting impression. That unique insider perspective and first-hand baseline of knowledge of LeBron's physical prep is what Shaq draws upon to dismantle lazy media narratives. He is not simply guessing about how LeBron maps out his floor game. He observed those work habits up close. What he witnessed was an elite player setting a physical and professional benchmark that most average rotation players in the league are totally unprepared to match. Shaq's praise of LeBron's locker room leadership was highly tactical and specific. He described LeBron as an exceptional leader, guiding players primarily through his daily on-court actions, rather than vocal commands. The way Shaq framed it, LeBron's influence on the roster operates through direct discipline. It is about the daily routine, the relentless physical maintenance, and the precise mechanical preparation he brings to every single matchup. He approaches every single detail of his footwork and conditioning with serious intent, even at an age when most veterans cut major corners. For any young player sharing a locker room with LeBron, simply watching his floor mapping and recovery habits is a total education. Shaq made it clear that if the younger pieces on this Philadelphia roster, including Maxey and others building their skill sets, truly study LeBron's off-court spacing habits and defensive rotations, the entire culture of the franchise will undergo a massive shift. Championship details are not taught through speeches. They are absorbed through proximity. Now the Sixers have a historic champion inside their facility daily, setting elite standards for spacing and defensive awareness. Modeling exactly what that looks like, providing Tyrese Maxey with a massive developmental opportunity. Maxey has already proven his status as an elite primary ball handler and threat in this league. His scoring gravity, his elite speed in transition, and his ability to execute half-court sets under pressure are highly evident. But every elite guard hits a ceiling. And what determines if they break through is the tactical environment and veteran guidance during their most critical developmental years at the top. Having LeBron James on the floor, a player who has solved every defensive coverage imaginable in this league, who has survived elimination games, deep playoff series, and the high-leverage defensive schemes that truly reveal what a player is made of, completely alters the deep basketball blueprints available to Maxey during his progression. This is not from the coaching staff or standard film study, but directly from the playmaker sharing his floor spacing during high-intensity practice. That level of cerebral influence is immeasurable, and Shaq views it as a highly overlooked element of this roster construction, of what Philadelphia just acquired. And Shaq's analysis shifted dramatically when the talk turned directly to Joel Embiid. This is where things get highly interesting. Shaq shifted from praising LeBron to throwing down a direct challenge. In Shaq's estimation, LeBron's elite playmaking does not just help the Sixers, it strips away every single floor spacing excuse that has historically defined Embiid's postseason struggles when defensive coverages tighten up late. Embiid possesses rare physical tools, combining elite post footwork with a massive frame. His high-release shooting touch and face-up gravity for a player of his dimensions are incredibly elite. Yet, throughout Embiid's career in Philadelphia, a major tactical question has hovered over this entire franchise. Can this team actually win a title with him as their ultimate centerpiece? Past playoff exits against complex zone defenses, poorly timed injuries, and execution failures have built a very complicated legacy for a player who remains a dominant interior force. But LeBron's gravity and floor spacing awareness completely changed the narrative entirely. If the Sixers fail now, you cannot blame the structural spacing or the supporting cast because it is highly elite. The issue would be internal, which is why Shaq made his prediction with total confidence. He flatly stated that Embiid will emerge as the premier center, passing Nikola Jokic in overall efficiency this very season. That is not a conservative low-risk projection. It is a major claim backed by Shaq's specific floor spacing analysis, highlighting exactly how LeBron's gravity unlocks Embiid's true operating potential. Since LeBron remains one of the premier passing front court players history of the game, a cerebral playmaker who reads weak side defensive rotations to deliver the basketball directly into his teammate's shooting pocket, right on time. For an elite interior post scorer like Joel Embiid, having that caliber of floor general initiating the half-court offense from the high elbow or the three-point line completely elevates the spacing and the quality of looks he will receive. Watch this closely. Defenders cannot cheat or sag off because LeBron will feed Embiid immediately. The double-team coverages that opponents used to slow down Embiid previously will fail completely when LeBron is sharing the floor. But Shaq's heavy expectation for Embiid comes with a strict tactical condition. Shaq has analyzed Embiid's shot charts for years, and his primary criticisms centers on where the big man operates on the floor. The consensus among traditional big men is that Embiid frequently settles for perimeter play and drifts too far from the paint. The long mid-range pull-ups, pick-and-pop threes, and his general tendency to avoid the high-contact block where his size dominates, where his physical mismatch is most severe, are seen by Shaq as a complete waste of interior scoring opportunity. Shaq's tactical challenge is direct. Establish deep interior position, seal your primary defender, and exploit the clear physical mismatch since nobody can stop you. In the league can physically handle you in the paint, which allows LeBron to feed you right in your sweet spot. This is where we must study the actual floor geometry, especially when LeBron James initiates the set play as the primary point forward. Whether he runs a pick and roll with Maxey, posts up on the block, or commands double teams at the top of the key, every single off-ball defender must adjust their rotation and prepare to make a split-second decision. Pick your poison. Help off LeBron and his vision exposes the open shooter. Stay attached and his driving lane opens up entirely. That defensive gravity, the constant rotation problems LeBron forces on every possession, is exactly what creates the spaced-out, high-quality post touches that Embiid has never really enjoyed in his career at this elite level. Past Philadelphia offenses forced Embiid to isolate and grind out his own looks, working out of stagnant double teams and doing heavy physical lifting before the entry pass even arrived. LeBron serves as a dynamic delivery system, an elite facilitator who manipulates passing lanes and fires the ball at the exact microsecond. He passes with perfect velocity, using elite court vision to feed Embiid in sweet spots, where he can immediately operate from a position of total strength, instead of scrambling to secure the ball and force a tough turnaround. This combination of playmaker and paint-dominant force if run with sharp execution, presents a complex pick and roll or high-low action that opposing defensive schemes simply cannot solve. Shaq knows this spacing dynamic from his own legendary career. When he ruled the low block in his prime with elite playmakers feeding him on time, defensive rotations were entirely useless. Now he projects that exact same unstoppable pick and post potential onto this Embiid and LeBron pairing. Jaylen Brown occupies a critical role here, a secondary scoring threat whose tactical value often goes ignored in these high-profile debates. But Shaq and serious analysts recognize his true floor value. Brown functions as a top-tier two-way wing player, a three-level scorer who can break down mismatches, draw contact at the rim, switch across multiple defensive assignments, and provide elite point of attack defense during intense postseason runs. When LeBron commands heavy defensive focus on the perimeter, and Embiid demands hard double teams down low, Brown attacking off ball as a spot-up threat presents a massive rotational challenge, which defenders cannot cover without giving up wide-open corner threes. Trust me, there is no clean recovery when every option represents a genuine threat. Plus, you still have Maxey pushing transition pace or initiating high-screen pick-and-roll combinations that become highly lethal when you have LeBron orchestrating as the secondary decision-maker on the weak side. This roster build, when analyzed through the lens of positional versatility and floor spacing, reveals a staggering concentration of star talent that the East has rarely seen before. The wider tactical impact of this massive roster overhaul, combining LeBron's gravity with Embiid's interior dominance and the deep supporting pieces, represents a structural shift. The entire Eastern Conference must now recalibrate. Standard drop coverages that worked against Philadelphia's old rosters simply do not translate to this highly dynamic multi-threat version. Postseason series matchups that favored opponents in the past will now demand a completely different level of defensive game planning and scouting. Opposing coaches see the danger. Opposing front offices are already scrambling. Contenders at the top of the East are definitely not resting easy as they watch Philadelphia construct this balanced offensive machine. They are already retooling rosters, and that is before LeBron James even plays a single minute in a Sixers uniform. There is an under-the-radar aspect of LeBron's tactical integration in Philadelphia that is highly misunderstood. If analysts continue to evaluate his impact using the outdated frameworks from earlier chapters of his legendary career, a 25-year-old LeBron had to serve as the entire offense, monopolizing possessions and driving high usage rates night after night, carrying immense scoring burdens during stagnated half-court stretches and acting as the solitary solution to every complex defensive coverage opposing coordinators threw at him. That heavy high-usage role is not what Philadelphia needs, nor is it what their current system requires. Instead, this offense demands a high IQ processor who executes the correct read or pass on every single possession, serving as the primary connective tissue within an already stacked roster and utilizing his gravity to maximize clean scoring windows for his teammates during high-leverage fourth-quarter possessions. His rare ability to influence games entirely through elite passing angles and cerebral leadership, rather than relying on raw downhill athletic dominance, remains the most overlooked facet of his physical and mental evolution. Over time, he has transitioned into a playmaker who thrives off ball as a cutter or spot-up threat, which actually makes him a far tougher cover for shifting defensive units, not an easier one. Once Shaq's analytical take began circulating through the sports talk landscape, the resulting debates highlighted the exact tactical divide you would expect from modern basketball media. Observers siding with his view immediately highlighted historical roster-building precedents. Elite, aging stars adjusting their roles to chase titles is a strategy as old as professional basketball. Bill Russell anchored championship defenses until his final season, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was still capturing trophies well into his late 30s. Chasing rings is definitely not a burden reserved solely for young franchise cornerstones. It belongs to any elite competitor still capable of contributing to a winning rotation. These analysts argue that Shaq was merely pointing out a basic reality that any individual with championship experience fully understands to be true. What also sparked intense debate was the direct manner in which Shaq targeted the resume and credibility of his critics. Instead of merely offering a standard, data-driven rebuttal, he did not simply state that the ring-chasing narrative was a flawed argument. He openly questioned if the analysts spearheading this narrative possess any real standing to lecture proven winners. That direct challenge shifted the debate, echoing loudly through a sports media landscape crowded with ringlet-class commentators. Championship experience and high-leverage defensive rotations frequently led the debate on what winning truly means. It shifted the narrative from criticizing LeBron's floor spacing decisions to questioning who actually understands the complex mechanics of evaluating his on-court gravity. Many analysts saw that spacing-focused argument as highly logical, while critics dismissed it as a convenient deflection. But regardless, it layered deep tactical roster-building debate directly over a simple free agency signing story, which is exactly how Shaq shifts the entire basketball media coverage when he decides to broadcast a firm strategic basketball stance publicly. Skeptics pushed back, firmly maintaining their original stance that LeBron's strategy of pairing multiple high-gravity star players alters the actual competitive balance of the league. They argue that pairing dominant, floor-spacing superstars represents an offensive shortcut rather than a true developmental process, leaving both factions deeply divided. And Shaq's analyst commentary did not resolve this roster construction debate so much as clarify the tactical battle lines. This strategic ring-chasing debate throughout NBA history is incredibly complex, and we must realize that aggregating elite, high-gravity superstars is certainly not new territory. Legendary franchise cornerstones have made controversial, late-career tactical roster choices to secure rings since the league's earliest years. Gary Payton and Karl Malone bringing pick-and-roll gravity to the Lakers, Garnett and Allen supplying spacing to Boston, or Durant joining Golden State's historic motion offense. Every single blockbuster transaction was heavily analyzed, focusing on defensive rotation efficiency, and used as definitive proof regarding any ongoing argument about legacy and competitive integrity. Yet, in every single case, the narrative debate eventually surrendered to on-court tactical execution. Actual on-court offensive execution is what history records, while subjective arguments about rotational depth and team construction motivations slowly fade over time. Championship banners never fade, and that specific trophy metric is exactly what Shaq targets. This schematic debate never fully settles because it highlights genuinely contested team-building philosophies. Whether winning a title holds the same value regardless of the spacing, defensive depth, and supporting cast constructed around you, and Shaq's specific view is entirely unambiguous. A ring remains a ring, and a championship is a championship. The execution required to win, the physical series played, the pick-and-roll schemes navigated, and the defensive game plans defeated do not change based on your locker room allies. And observers who have never completed a championship playoff run lack the authority to define its execution requirements. What Shaq's analysis ultimately reveals when we step back and evaluate the entire picture is that his defense of LeBron is about a structural team-building ideology far bigger than one standard off-season roster signing. It defends a relentless competitive championship optimization philosophy, arguing that elite competitors are never supposed to stop hunting viable title windows. That superstar athletes never reach a career point where their primary drive to win should ever diminish. That maximizing your championship window at any late career stage does not require defensive public justifications, a competitive blueprint that Shaq lived and executed daily. He chased championships with a singular focus on roster optimization throughout his career, and never offered apologies for it. Observing that precise drive in LeBron, while hearing media critics question his tactical career adjustments, clearly triggered a reaction. He refused to remain silent while critics framed a top-tier space-generating superstar as someone who should feel embarrassed about choosing the most efficient offensive pathways, specifically toward maximizing his championship ring output. LeBron James joining the Philadelphia 76ers structurally redefines their spacing dynamics and remains a key storyline of this entire NBA season. A decade from now, when historians evaluate this high-volume spacing era, this strategic roster aggregation will be studied extremely closely as a primary blueprint for executive planning. Its tactical fit, why it materialized, and whether the roster experiment paid off. Your opinion on his ultimate historical legacy is irrelevant, and it does not matter whether you believe this tactical integration complicates or enhances his overall career analytical resume. LeBron James, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown combining their elite individual shooting gravity on the court represents an elite convergence of perimeter spacing, inside dominance, and collective championship experience. Philadelphia's roster composition has not projected this level of dominance in decades, and the entire Eastern Conference knows it. Whether the Sixers can translate this massive spacing gravity into a ring depends entirely on their actual execution during slow, physical half-court playoff games, where late-game defensive rotations are heavily tested and coaches have nowhere left to hide. But Philadelphia's baseline expectations have already been elevated completely. The franchise standard has been raised, and this elite wing gravity has structurally shifted the Eastern Conference power balance. And Shaquille O'Neal, historically one of the most dominant low-post physical forces in professional basketball history, has made his strategic evaluation of this elite roster design abundantly clear. He delivered that analysis without hesitation, without metric hedging, and with zero regard for which media critics disagreed. Maximizing title opportunities by assembling elite floor spacing assets is not something top competitors do only when it is convenient, comfortable, or easy to defend publicly. It is their fundamental competitive standard, defining exactly who they are. And until the final buzzer sounds on their physical court career, that execution drive should never stop.